Have you ever wondered what would happen if someone was forcefully summoned to another world? Then he survived and came back, then trained their own grandchild to be an absolute super soldier level, because there was a possibility that they would be summoned someday as well. Then one day, the grandchild was actually summoned as well. But what the summoners didn't know, that they were actually bringing a crocodile into the pond. This is exactly the premise of the light novel Wortenia Senki, or Record of Wortenia War. The light novel itself is heavily focused on action, kingdom building, politics, and drama. There are schemes, wars, and betrayal. There is also a sense of mystery surrounding the whole concept of summoning otherworlders itself, which is very interesting. You won't find any of the common tropes you would see in a generic Isekai light novel. The atmosphere is really serious. There is a sense of thrill and a hot-blooded passion in the midst of war. And most importantly, there is little to no cheesy comedy. Another thing that is unique about this light novel is the way the protagonist increases his strength. There is no game-like system which is always there to help the protagonist. He has to kill another living being, which allows him to absorb a fraction of their strength and make it his own. What's more, that trait is not exactly exclusive to the protagonist. In fact, it is true for any summoned otherworlders. He doesn't have a cheat. He is the cheat. Mikoshiba Ryuma, who is the protagonist of this novel, is apparently just a somewhat ordinary high schooler who was trained to be adept at martial arts since childhood by his grandfather. But as the story progresses, we come to know that he is far from just an ordinary high schooler who knows martial art. In fact, he has been trained to kill. At first, you might wonder, why would someone train their grandson to be a trained killer, or more like a general, in a peaceful country like modern Japan? But we come to understand the reason as soon as the protagonist is summoned to another world. We find out that the various kingdoms are summoning beings from another world just for their ability to grow stronger through the act of killing. They don't have some noble purpose like defeating the demon king or saving the world. They only want to use the otherworlders as their slave soldiers and achieve their own selfish motives. What's even worse is that they think that it's totally a justified act. You can very well imagine what a rotten world this is. Anyways, our protagonist was not just going to take any of this lying down like a generic assertive beta protagonist. He is not a sheep, but a dragon. Upon being summoned, he first ascertains the situation he is in, then immediately goes on the offensive. He ruthlessly kills the people on sight and then manages to escape. And so begins an isekai so unique that it always leaves me wanting for more. The protagonist embarks on a journey to fight against this unfair and cruel world. He survives through his sharp wit, blazing bravery, and raging strength. He is a terrifying fighter, a competent general, and he has the inborn charisma of a leader. He is cautious, cunning, cruel, and ruthless, yet quite generous when the situation demands it. He is not overpowered to the point of being invincible, but he is strong enough to strike fear into the hearts of men. He is intelligent enough to know that he can't do everything on his own. So, he gathers followers and slowly grows his strength. He has an iron will and knows when to be patient. But at the same time, he is extremely decisive. He successfully becomes what his grandfather trained him to be, and more. He thrives and slowly but surely becomes a presence that people both respect and fear. The other side characters are also clearly fleshed out. They have emotions, goals, and the will to strive towards that goal. They have flaws, biases, and they make mistakes. They seem very human. There are female characters who have feelings for the protagonist. But the protagonist is simply too busy for romance. Don't misunderstand. He is not dense or asexual. He is quite aware of their feelings. But he also knows that the situation he is in requires him to have no weaknesses. So he doesn't let himself become emotionally involved with the opposite gender. He has sexual desires, but he is not a pervert. He goes to a brothel when the need arises. The antagonists are also not one-dimensional. They have a goal and they have elaborate schemes and plans to achieve that goal. They are cunning, cruel, and ruthless. They are, above all, interesting. The final boss, however, is a mystery. You will have to find that out yourself. The world building is quite elaborate. As this is essentially a kingdom building novel, it has to describe the different kingdoms, their cultures, and the socio-economic situations in detail. And I think that this novel does that quite well, although not perfectly. The world is very different from a generic isekai. Yes, it is a world with swords and magic, but it's a world with mostly human inhabitants with some magical races here and there. There are nobles and there are empires and kingdoms. The nobles are selfish and cruel, and there are frequent wars between the various kingdoms. To sum up, Wortenia Senki is a record of the conquest of a supreme ruler who aims to crush this other world under his foot and bend it to his own will. It's him against the world, and only time will tell who will come out on top. Honestly, I've been reading this light novel since its days as a web novel. Yes, it has its flaws, but the light novel version is quite polished. I have read 16 volumes of this light novel, but it has always managed to make me curious about what will happen next. That's all for this review. If you like my work, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And stay safe and healthy till we meet in the next video. Thank you.